Baby, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you real life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, you know they for me young girl. Oh, young girl, baby, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you real life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, you know day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, you know mellow day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, day for me young girl. Oh young girl, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl. Oh young girl, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your feel life and down, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, day for me young girl. Oh young girl, and down. If I tell you say I love you, no, I know say so day for me young girl.
Just turn up my Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Oh, it's still afternoon, I gather. It's 5 o'clock. So we're still an hour away from evening time. I see people wearing stars. I hope one day I can wear a star. I see people wearing balloons. I hope one day I can fly away into a balloon. How are we feeling? Oh, awesome. What it means is that you've eaten a lot of food. You're satisfied, and you're also satisfied with what you're seeing as you walked around the rooms and the different booths. Huh? And the future looks bright. Put your hands together for Remax. And thank you for sharing into this their premier real estate conference. I'm seeing people who I know who will come in to ask hard questions, and people who will just look and smile and encourage our speakers. So we don't have much rules. What we ask is that if you have a question or a comment after the presentations and during the conversation, indicate by raise of hand. We'll acknowledge you. We bear in mind that we're also streaming to Remax's YouTube platform. So hello to those who are on YouTube. Welcome. My name is Colleen Douglas, and I'll be moderating this session. I know for those who've been here, the sessions have been mainly talk back. This afternoon, it's slightly different. We have presentations from our presenters first, then we will converse, and it's open to Q&A thereafter. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you. I know, so the teacher part of me and the country part of me, I say me talk or not talk back. And my grandmother say, when people are talk, you must at least pretend so you hear them or not interested. So look at them and smile, because it's very unnerving to be on the mic, looking at you all and wondering, am I saying it right? Is there food in my teeth? What is going on? So we're gonna be respectful. And I do know that ones are at the booth, and it is possible that you are so interested and you're making business, but we will keep the voices down so that we're hearing the presenters. Our topic for this afternoon is ensuring equitable access. What does that mean? We will find out. We know, because we talk so much about equity and equality. Equity for me is everyone having the same opportunity as everyone else, regardless of your, well, you have to be old enough. But whether you're low income, mid income, high income, higher than high income, you have this same opportunity to access real estate is what we're discussing here. So it's ensuring equitable access, and our speakers are two wonderful women, powerhouses in their field. Shellie Leon is the CEO of Companies Office of Jamaica. What that means is that she's a chief executive officer, and she's also the registrar of companies at the Companies Office of Jamaica. She's an attorney at law. I think it's a culture at Companies Office is always attorney at laws where I run the things down there. And she's admitted to both the Jamaican and California bars. So Remax here, when I go down international things turn up. She is also an associate tutor at the Norman Manley Law School and serves as an external examiner there as well. She's a member of the Jamaica Bar Association and is a member of the Board of Trustees of the Executive Agency's pension scheme. The rest of her bio is actually in the program, so you can view it, and she'll forgive me as I cut it. We're going to allow her to introduce herself to you through her presentation. Our other speaker is Ms. Doreen Prendergast, who is the Managing Director of the Housing Agency of Jamaica Limited, and she's been doing so since 2022. However, she has been in the public service for almost 4 decades. And how much is a decade? 1 decade is what? 10? So 4 decades equals? But she looks good. 22 of which have been at the senior management level. And I know if you work in a government for 40 years, you can't work anywhere in life, right? As managing director, she's tasked with increasing access to safe, legal, and affordable housing solutions for all Jamaicans. She holds a diploma in teaching from the Excelsior Community College and degrees from the University of Auckland New Zealand, and UWI Mona, as well as the University of Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our speakers this afternoon. And how we're going to do it, we are going to start with Miss Doreen Prendergast. It's a presentation on a timer for me. You see if she go over 7 minutes, just wave like this. And she's going to pause so that we can have some time to wrap. Ladies, you can indicate by nodding if I allow both of you to present one after the other, and then we talk. Is that okay? All right. Our speakers, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming to you shortly, just turning to my presentation. And I have a staff member in the audience who will assist me with my slides. But just to say, my name is Doreen Prendergast, and I'm the Managing Director of the Housing Agency of Jamaica Limited. But I've had extensive experience in housing, having worked in the housing portfolio of the various ministries for decades. And it is indeed a pleasure of mine and the Board of Directors of the Housing Agency and staff for us to be given this opportunity to showcase our work at this conference and expo. This is indeed a big deal for us. I will begin my presentation with a quote from Ricky Renzi, and it says, "Home ownership is not just about securing a place. It is about anchoring dreams." And one of the greatest dreams of most Jamaicans is to own a little piece of the rock. And home ownership is one of the biggest investments that anyone, or that most persons will ever make during their lifetime. And of course, just to say, it is also one of the best types of investments that one can make because it is an appreciating asset. If you treat your property well, it will appreciate. You see the prices going up, not going down. The theme of the session states ensuring equitable access. So in addressing this conference, I want you to understand when I speak of access, what is it that I mean? And here I'm talking about adequacy access, as this is where the issue of equitable access lies. And I must say up front that access could take various forms. It could be ownership, it could be lease, it could be rental. So I want that put out that the modality by which one gains access may differ. But just to quote from the National Housing Policy and Implementation Plan, which was tabled in the Houses of Parliament on the 28th of February, 2023 as a white paper, I wish to state what it says about access. It says, and I quote, "Housing is fundamental to the social and economic well-being of individuals and communities. Adequate housing means more than just a roof over one's head. It also means adequate privacy, adequate space, physical accessibility, security. And you know, safety and security is big in terms of our communities and how we live and where we live. Suitable health-related, in addition, basic facilities and secure infrastructure such as water, sanitation, and waste management. So when you're thinking of access, you have to factor in all those. So people may be living in a community, and in many instances, some of these communities lack one or two or three or several of these basic criteria. We would not consider those persons to have had adequate access. Now, housing as a commodity and a social right, if we were to look at it from that point of view, we must consider the fact that when we're talking about access to housing, we have to delve into the whole area of sustainability we have to talk about inclusivity, and we also have to talk about affordability. And to wrap everything and to converge everything, we are talking about creating livable communities. Yeah. Now, just to give you a little context, there are various local and international convention frameworks that we are party to as a government of Jamaica. And these help to guide us as to what direction we take regarding providing access. There is Vision 2030, the Jamaica National Development Plan, and it speaks to adequate housing being fundamental to the social and economic well-being of all. I mentioned the housing policy earlier, and that is there. But there are various universal declarations and human rights, and one that many know is Article 25, one of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has a right to a standard of living adequate for health and well-being. And there are various other conventions that Jamaica is party to. We're talking about the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So these are just a few of the conventions that we are party to. And one very quoted convention also is Article 11.1 of the International Convention on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights, the right to an adequate standard of living. And we also are party to the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 11, which speaks to the future of our cities and our human settlements and having basic services, housing and transportation and the likes. So just to skip, because I only have 5 minutes, you may move on. So I've established the framework which governs the provision of housing, but there are various challenges facing the housing sector. And some of them are listed on this slide here, but one major one is that demand outstrip supply. And the Ministry of Housing in 2011 used the population census to make some projections and came up with the approximation that we need to have at least 15,000 houses per annum if we were to fill that gap. But as I go along in my presentation, you will see that we have not filled that gap. We have not met that gap at all. We are way behind when you look at replacement stock and when you look at the need to build new solutions, we are still not there. In 2011, you can skip. In 2011, there are approximately 11,000 housing solutions were developed. But just to point you to some of the measures that are being utilized by the government to bring access. We have the policy provisions. And of course, there is the public sector code of consultation where anytime we're doing a housing development, many of the municipal corporations would point you to this. They will ask that you consult with the stakeholders in the various communities to ensure that they have a say in what is happening, because developments will impact your basic services. It may alter the amount of water you're getting in your pipes. It may block off your roadways. So the public sector code of consultation is important. Of course, we have the National Housing Trust, which is a contributory scheme. And the National Housing Trust, from time to time, they come up with different policy measures, varied interest rates, but you know, as soon as NHT increases its ceiling, its loan ceiling, the market goes out of whack. And so they find different ways to engage with and to provide for their consumers. They increase the mortgage amount. They are even involved in urban renewal in some communities. So those are just a few of the measures that are being undertaken. Like the Housing Agency of Jamaica that I represent, and we are a housing and land development company. And we operate in the low to middle income markets. And sometimes we would say in the no income market too, because we do have a social aspect to our mandate. And what you find is that we cater mostly for first-time homeowners, but people are very, as my grandmother would say, very trickified. People have their ways and their means of getting more than one solution, but we cater predominantly to first-time homeowners. and we regularize informal settlements. These are some of the ways in which we try to increase access. Because the low-income housing market, there is a dearth in terms of investors in that market. Investors are not interested so much in the low-income housing market because that's not where they make the big profit. So an agency like the Housing Agency of Jamaica caters to this need, because remember that everybody can't always buy high-end houses. So we try to provide access by building out greenfields, what we call greenfield new developments, as well as we operate in informal settlements. And we have a suite of informal settlements, some of them coming from the Operation Pride days, that we try to go in and intervene. But you know, we have to meet the bottom line. And in meeting the bottom line, we can't do this wholesale. So we depend on grant funding like the Tourism Enhancement Fund will assist us from time to time in regularizing our settlements. For example, in Montego Bay, Grange Pen, because many of the persons who work in the hotels live in these in development. So we do regularization of informal settlements and we do mixed developments. Continue. Now, if you were to look at some of the trends, because I pulled some data from the ESSJ, the Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica, which comes out of the Planning Institute of Jamaica. And you will realize that if you were to look at housing starts from 2018 to 2022, which is over a 5-year period, you will recognize that if we were to go by that data, we're not doing well at all. We're not even anywhere near to the 15,000 that they said we should be producing per annum. You see 3,800 and plus. In 2019, we had gone up to 11,682. But then guess what came? COVID came. And COVID would have disrupted the market. And what you'll find is that it set back the market significantly. It also affected the prices at which we sell houses, because the supply chain would have been significantly impacted and material costs went up. Apart from that, many construction companies, in terms of labor, they were affected. So after COVID, people don't want to do these ordinary little work anymore. So it is a challenge for many developers right now in finding suitable workers to come and work on their construction site. And when they do come, some of them don't have the skill set. So you have a lot of defects. So you're constantly having to repair and repair when you could be building and progressing. You can move along. So the role of the housing agency is to really provide safe and affordable housing and legal housing. And we put legal in it because you have informal settlement. So we put legal in it as part of the definition. And we provide infrastructure and we provide new houses. Continue. And you can continue. So I mentioned that we do brownfield, but if you look at this map, this gives you an indication of the footprint of the Housing Agency of Jamaica. We have developments, I think it's just 3 parishes or so where we have not done any construction in, and that's Clarendon and Manchester and Hanover. But right across, and St. Thomas, 4. But we have developments, we have done developments all across the island. And if some of you have visited our booth, you would have seen some of the major developments that people think that we did not build on our slides. If you look, you will see Wellington Glades, you would see the Pines of Karachi, you would see Oaklands, you would see, so Gretna Green, what they call it, is it Gretna, the one around near Oak Pastures? College Green, some of those. So sometimes persons don't know that we do these things because our signage is not necessarily up and out. But we have a large footprint across the island. And currently we are more so in St. Catherine and St. James. Can you? So in terms of what we have on the market at present, we have one called Catherine Estates. And Catherine Estates, we are providing studios and 1-bedroom. These are starter units for persons who can't find the big money, but they can come into they want a start. And the NHG provides 100% financing for this grouping. And guess who are the constituents, who are the beneficiaries? You'd be surprised, a lot of police. teachers, nurses. We have people from the port who are coming in. So we don't have hand to sell these units. This is our most outstanding performing project at the moment. And they go for, we started at 6 million for the studio and 6.5 for the 1-bedroom. And now we are at 7 million for the studio and 7.5 for the 1-bedroom. And the land space is big enough. We have prepared designs for you. We have prepared some designs to prevent haphazard development. We have gone ahead and we work with the parish council, and we have some designs that people can actually come in and purchase from us just to print it. We don't charge them for the architectural work, just to print. And they take this to the municipal corporation, and the municipal corporation will waive the fee for the building fee for that. They only will ask for $20,000, I think, to oversee the construction. If you buy it and you use it, we're not saying you have to buy it, but if you don't, then you're going to end up spending much more to get your designs done, and you will have to pay the municipal corporation the fee. So this is our most outstanding product at the moment, and we're doing 1,650 solutions. Then there is Sandown Palms in Portmore near the Ascot High School. And these are 2-bedroom townhouses. And these townhouses are going, we started at 22.1 million, but now we're at 26 million. Because you know the market moves and location sells. So it is all the units around us, all the other developers around us, they are in the 26 and up region. So this is a good price. And then we have Elsha View on the Elsha Road. It is a new development. You would have seen it started. And we are doing 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. For the first 101 units that we marketed, those are sold out, and we are building out those. We anticipate that those will be ready by December this year, the phase 1. Then and it will be similar to something like a Caribbean estate, gated and nice, and so we'll have some 3 bedrooms in that as well. As you go higher up the hill, we'll put the 3 bedrooms as you go higher up the hill. And that is the location of that project is a very rocky outcrop. So you know the location also impacts the price. Then we have Edmund Ridge in St. James. And Edmund Ridge is 772 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, and we have a few premium units. Because, as I said, the location will affect the price at which you sell. And then here we come to our brownfield development, Grange Pen in St. James. This is where we're putting in water, sewage, and electricity. And the Tourism Enhancement Fund is our sponsor here. They work with us, and we are regularizing the developments. And just to flip quickly through some of the projects, this is Catherine Estate. When you go on the highway, you're looking over, we're going to put a wall around it anyway. The Catherine Estate, and this is Sandown Palms. These are the 2-bedroom townhouses. Many of them are duplexes. And this is Edmund Ridge. Some persons from the West would have been familiar with these. There are some townhouses and some bungalows. This is the color. And then Elsha View, this is the one I told you we have started on the Elsha Road and building out. And the infrastructure upgrade, as I mentioned, we continue to do that, putting in roads and so. So we are creating access for as many persons that the market would not normally cater to. All right. Continue. This is Grange Pen. And then this is a project in the Prime Minister's constituency, who is our minister. And this is what we did for some persons that were affected by fire. And so this is a social housing benefit. And they are apartments, and they are quite nice, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. So, and then the government itself has a new social housing program, and that is more for the indigent, and it is more an MP-driven project, where people would write into their MPs, and the MPs would recommend them for a benefit. It has 3 modalities. It removes people who are on like the gully banks. It upgrades tenements and it addresses persons who definitely do not have anywhere to live. The challenge with this project, though, is that because so many persons, a lot of our lands are unregistered. So many persons might be living on lands and they don't own it. As a government, we can't just go in and put the unit. They have to get permission because we don't want to be seen to be facilitating squatting and taking over a person's lands illegally. So this is done. And here are some social housing persons getting their keys.
And at the risk of feeling like we're doing some government PR, I want you to put your hands together for me. Prendergast.
Just click.
And I'm going to also ask Shellie your permission to just have the audience ask. We'll take 2 questions, 1 from each side. I'm going to take moderator's privilege and ask a question that I don't want to forget. Because you want to sit or you want to stay there and respond? You want to come back to your seat?
Yes, thank
If
you.
so, I'll ask GT Sounds to bring the mics over.
Thank you very much for listening.
I think it was a very thoughtful, information-packed presentation. It's not often that we have PowerPoint, where Jamaicans are not led by PowerPoint, and people are so locked to the screen. So I just wanted to comment that. Thank you so much for the time taken to put what you do in a few words, because I know you would have had more. My burning question as I come to you, sir, is, you know, when you spoke about kinds of Karachi and thing, and we talk about equitable and fair access for housing, I wanted to find out, and as I looked at the REMAX agent taking pictures of the slides, I wonder, how do we control the investment people, the ones who bought it? At the time when they were buying the homes, they were buying it as a first timer of what was affordable, but then the prices skyrocket and they now sell higher than it was intended. How do we control that to secure that equitable access?
I wish to say this is, I wish to say in the case of housing developments that have been subsidized, like the Pines of Karachi was a part of the Greenfield aspect of Operation Pride. So the government tends to put a clause in the agreement about the right of first refusal. So they have to actually come to the ministry and pay, I think it's $10,000. I'm not remembering how much it is now, but it is after a time. So it's a way to prevent persons from just speculating and getting the benefit and then selling it immediately there, selling it immediately thereafter. It is difficult though, as I said, as a housing agency, to tell if people are being truthful. You try to screen persons as best as you can, but people have their ways and means. Sometimes they come with as many family members with different names, and they have their means of ways of getting around it. But we try our best to, you know, screen persons to ensure that they are first-time homeowners. But, you know, some will slip through the cracks. It does happen.
All right, thank you for that. I am still, okay, that's fine. I'm going to take it off air, but you had a question, sir. Can we have an audience mic, please? No, it's not loud enough for YouTube.
Check, mic check. No, man, the mayor will take time with it. My personal, not just a question per se, but a commendation. Housing Agency of Jamaica have gone through several changes. And I want to say that in the case of the development on Elsha Main Road, I was the person responsible for having that view, seeing that property, bring Minister Horace Chang at the time into Portmore as the mayor, and told him that I wanted a Long Mountain kind of look on that main road. And to tell you the truth, I'm no longer mayor since 2012, but I am absolutely proud of seeing that development. And for those of you at Remax, don't sit down and wait. Try and sell it now because it ain't going to be cheap. Under my leadership, Portmore soared as it relates to
Hello,
cost.
sir. You see, I cut the lady who is
But I wanted to say one thing before I go. HAJ, thank you very much.
and thank you for that commendation. I'm gonna take a mic from him, because I know him stay.
Thank you.
Love him dearly, but me no say he might go big up himself and everybody else. Big him up though with a round of applause.
Thank
I
you.
love that he appreciates your work that you've been doing. Thank
And I
you.
must say commendation to the municipal corporation because they have always worked collaboratively with us to get our products out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for Doreen Prendergast. I'm gonna ask you if you have a question specifically for the HAJ, that you make a note of it, because I would love for you, and for those who may have joined us late, I want you to help me welcome the Chief Executive Officer and Registrar of Companies at the Companies Office of Jamaica, who will give you a really wonderful spin on how you move from the area of intellectual property to the property that we're talking about, real estate. Please make welcome Shellie Leon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm sure that when you saw me from Companies Office giving this presentation, you were a little bit surprised because you're probably wondering, what does Companies Office of Jamaica have to do with removing certain barriers and increasing equity when it comes to land ownership? All right, so I'm going to share with you the perspective from which I come. And in sharing the perspective, I want to encourage you to monetize assets apart from real estate that you're very familiar with. Monetize other type of assets which can help you to acquire real estate. So what are some of the barriers to a fair distribution of real estate? So from a legal perspective, you have things such as proving root of title, obtaining a title, finalizing land ownership through succession. So you're aware, perhaps many of you, of the work, for example, of the National Land Agency in this area. We may also have certain economic barriers, such as inability to afford real estate, inability to access capital to fund real estate, high interest rates. The inability to access capital to fund real estate, that's the particular perspective that I'm going to zone in on. You may have certain social barriers, per capita income versus the cost of real estate acquisition. Now, many of you are very aware of the role of the Companies Office in regard to registering and regulating companies and businesses. But you may not be so familiar with our role in managing the security interest in personal property registry. This is a registry established by the Security Interest in Personal Property Act. And the registry records security interest created in personal property, usually for the issuance of some financial benefit. So the presentation will explore how the establishment and existence of this registry positively impacts access to real estate. So the Security Interest in Personal Property Registry, or NSIP, as I will call it, it's an electronic collateral registry which is used to receive, store, and report notices of interest in movable property. By movable property, many of you are familiar with, if you have a motor vehicle and you go to the bank for a loan to acquire that motor vehicle, or if you have equipment or things like that, that's what we're talking about. What many of you don't think about a lot and what we need to promote more in our society is monetizing our intellectual property. So where, for example, we create music, we create paintings, we create patents, for example. We have recordings, we have royalties, we have crops. Now, how do we use these ideas that we have to get money? So that is what this registry is aimed at doing. So what the study showed is that, for example, 70% of people have personal property and 30% of people have real property. But everybody wants to access loans. So how do we level the playing field where we can allow the people who have the 70% of personal property to use that to get money, for example, to acquire real estate? So the objective of the collateral registry, it is to record interest taken in personal property to remove obstacles facing small businesses as well as individuals, thereby enabling them to have the same access to capital as larger business, for example, or persons with, say, real property. Small business loans need to be facilitated by getting banks and other financial institutions to accept non-traditional forms of collateral. So by gaining access to loans, small businesses, small business persons, individuals, they will be equipped to acquire, for example, land, to expand their business and to create further business opportunities. So how can the SIP registry be used as a strategy for the fair distribution of real estate? It provides a reliable system for banks and financial institutions to conduct investigations into potential customers that are either small businesses or individuals. It allows small businesses and individuals to use non-traditional forms of collateral to obtain homes or to get business loans, for example, to acquire property. It will increase the diversity of home/real estate owners, allowing persons from varying demographics to have access to home or real estate ownership. Now, what kind of property are we talking about? We're talking about crops and livestock, including future crops and unborn livestock. We're talking about receivables, equipment and machinery, inventory, including raw material or goods to be sold, stocks and bonds, intellectual property, such as copyrights, trademarks, and patents. So the security interest in personal property registry increases access to credit while reducing the risk of credit because it promotes risk management planning. It reduces the cost of credit as lower interest rates are available, and this results in cost savings. So instead of persons having to get an unsecured loan, you can use the non-traditional assets to get a loan and get lower interest rate. It increases market competition and it leads to the development of several industries. It promotes both credit and risk diversification. So basically, what we're doing through this NSIP registry at the company's office is saying to persons, you may not have, for example, money for a deposit to purchase property. You may not initially think you have the cash flow for that. But what we're saying, use your ideas, use your personal property. This can create the relevant means for you to approach financiers, for you to be able to get money that you can go into real estate purchasing. So this is the proposition that we bring to you via the national security interest in personal property registry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do know we have bankers and investment people in here who will be able to tell us whether or not that is viable. I have absolutely no clue. I declare that. Did you shake your head that it's not viable? Or did you shake your head that I shouldn't ask you? Can we have an audience mic, please? It was just nearby, or I could share mine. You want me to? Okay. She's right here.
So thank you for that presentation. It has opened up my eyes to something else. What I do know is that I don't believe I have seen such a registry being used as collateral before, but it is something that we should, as in the financial industry, probably look at, because you find that persons are earning money and from their patents, royalties, entertainment industry, different things, but it is not a recognized collateral. So it is something that to be thought about and even probably looked into to see where, as financial institutions, we can possibly do that. But thank you for the information.
You said we. Which financial institution are you with? You're not telling me? She whispers. I'm not telling you. I see Guardian Group. I see Barito. I know we had someone from Jumpstarter Profit here earlier on. It is a conversation. And one of the things, Doreen, you might have referred to, perhaps not as directly to that, is the idea of access is that everyone should have access. And we spoke about the low mid-income earners, but if we go back to the Vision 2030, and I'd love for our policymakers who are government people up here to say what you think about it. If we say that we want by 2030 to become a cultural superstate, then by all means, we should consider some of our creative and cultural assets as real assets. Is there any conversation that we've begun to have as a nation towards this? And as you respond to that, I would also love for both of you to consider whether there are potentially any private-public partnership for those kinds of ideas you've both shared. When you think of REMAX as a possible private partner, I'm looking at REMAX now with a smile. So yes, is there any conversation about those assets being real?
All right, so I'm happy that you raised this issue. So let me indicate, so currently the challenges would be in regard to valuation of some of those assets, as well as establishing a secondary market regarding those assets. There may also be challenges regarding, for example, how your regulator indicates you should adjudge an asset before you accept it as security. However, I am pleased to advise you, so the registry is an electronic registry that we administer. And we have had significant amount of loans being granted on the registry. Granted, at this point in time, it's mostly in regard to the traditional assets such as motor vehicles, but we do have intellectual property, we do have crops, we do have receivables. So these are other areas that are slowly coming into being. And I want to indicate, in fact, right now, we are at the Joint Select Committee of Parliament where we are taking submissions regarding the amendment to the Security Interest in Personal Property Act to make it more robust and to allow more persons to access. And in looking at that, we're looking at more private-public partnerships. We have international stakeholders who are also on the ground, who are meeting with regulators and the private sector so that we can make this regime more profitable for all.
And from a policy point of view, just to say that with the new urban agenda that most governments would have signed on to coming out of the United Nations, you would have seen where there's an emphasis on cultural enterprises. And the fact that when you are renewing your towns and your cities, you ought to give credence to the cultural assets that exist in these spaces. So with the ministry, in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, which is a sponsor and my parent ministry, we do have an urban renewal arm of the ministry. And they are looking into things like these, putting together a policy, an urban renewal policy, and it will reflect the cultural aspect of our development.
I see Janet's hand, and I'm thinking it would be interesting to hear from an artist. You're raising your hand? No. It's a point I was going to make. Were you going to use the mic, sir?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so we'll take him and then we'll go at the back. Go ahead, sir.
Excellent presentation from Shellie. But as a typical Jamaican, I'm just wondering, is there a timeline? Because I can't see myself walking into a bank and explaining to them that I've been to the seminar and I have all right to come in and to request a loan based on my intellectual property. Where are we going? Are we have discussion with the banking association? Because I mean, this sounds very exciting to me.
Okay, you will respond, Shellie. I'm just kind of indicating that you could take the mic to the back of the room for me.
All right, so very much so. The Bankers Association, they are a part of the discussion. The Bank of Jamaica, they are also a part of the discussion. So right now we do, as I indicated, we do have a few loans using intellectual property, not many, because as I told you, there's an issue regarding valuation and us having local valuators on the ground. But Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, they started a project where they firstly have trained certain personnel in terms of valuation, and they're going to be doing further training so that we have a cadre of local experts, and that will assist in, rejuvenating this area.
Thank you, Shellie. Go ahead.
Thank you. This question is for Shellie, and it may not necessarily be about the subject matter at hand, but it has to do with the Companies Office. That's why I want to ask it. Now, if you name a company and you register it with the Companies Office, and you're in, and somebody else goes and registers a similar name, what do you do in that case? I'm curious to find out, because there is a case right now in Montego Bay where there are two events going on, and both of them are causing a lot of disruption in the city because they sound alike and it seems they're alike. And, I'm not even sure one is registered at all, but it's using the name.
All right, so I'm going to answer that question, and quickly to bring it in this context, I could say, because one of the things I could have said to you at the outset in terms of increasing access to real estate, formalizing your business, being able to get certain goodwill and whatever can make you eligible for loans and grants. To answer your question directly. All right, so what the law does provide is you can't have two companies with same or similar names, except if you have consent. And you should not have a company and a business with same and similar name. What may happen, as you indicate, so where it is two registered entities, one entity can make a complaint to the registrar. They can provide evidence to show how there is confusion in the marketplace because we registered two similar company names, for example. And in that instance, the law does provide for us to ask the second entity to change their name. And we have further legislative provisions coming, which will strengthen this area. Now, if one entity is not registered, regrettably, that is going to go into the realms of private law. So you would now have to go to your attorney. It's either going to be that there's a passing off action or if there's a breach in terms of a registered trade or service mark, then you will have to get that dealt with in the court, where you may apply for an injunction. And then if it's the registered entity that is committing the breach, that would be served on the company's office, so that that person has to change its name. If it's the unregistered one, then it would be served on them. And through legal counsel, they would be compelled to change their name, and there can be compensation.
As I listen to you, thanks, Shellie. I hope that responded to you, Janet.
Very
There
well.
is also, I'm always interested in how government entities kind of triangulate services. So there is also the Jamaica Intellectual Property Organization, who is responsible for the name search. So if it is that we value our IP or copyright or trademarks, when you are registering a name, do you refer to JIPO so that the name search can be checked, because there is a name search service there?
All right, so what it is, our company rules, because at present, JIPO is not fully electronic, so there's not a link right between the two registries. But what the law does provide is that the name should not infringe a registered trademark. So if the name infringes a registered trademark, the person whose mark has been infringed, they send to the Companies Office of Jamaica, showing us proof of the registration of the mark, the category in which that mark is registered, why they are making a case that there has been infringement, and that puts the Companies Office of Jamaica in a position to act in regard to directing the entity to change its name.
And this is not poor man's trademark now.
When you say,
As in, you put it in a one envelope and you mail it to
Oh,
yourself.
copyright.
It is for copyright.
Okay,
It has
no.
to be properly trademarked.
All right, so not to say that the copyright, because I mean, that is the established legal method in regard to the copyright. But this is in regard to, for example, the Trademarks Act, which deals with trademark and service marks, because that's the one currently that our act speaks to. So this would be the one that's registered at the Intellectual Property Office at JIPO.
All right, thank you. I want to go back a little bit on track. So the importance of the question in context of the presentation, just in case you think we've gone off, is if we say that we're valuing assets, then copyright, trademark, intellectual property rather, as an umbrella subject becomes something important for us to think about when we're looking to actualize that into purchasing real estate. I'm very curious about how artists, especially our musicians, manage who we see as informal, and the fact that Remax you would sell to them, and how the bankers kind of monitor that kind of income. I'm very curious about that as a whole conversation when we talk about fair, equitable access, and Doreen is burning to go.
Many of them would make cash purchases. That's what they do. They do cash purchases. But we do not encourage it at
We
the
don't.
housing agency. No.
Okay, excellent presentation overall. Although we know in theory it's quite good, but we know in Jamaica we operate off vested interests. The system caters to vested interests. So how does the ordinary person in the street is able to access those funds based on his relative income? How does he able to access those funds?
Is it really a funds question you want to ask, or you want to say access real estate through their own funding?
Access real estate, because we know traditionally the access caters to vested interests. So how does the
Not
ordinary
based, you
blow?
were here for Doreen's presentation, or you
Yes,
missed
yes,
some
yes,
of it?
very much so.
Because I'm going to ask her to just restate some of the opportunities under the HAJ that she referred to earlier on, so that we can show, because she did speak to as low as the indigent, and my apologies if I'm using an expression that it's not meant to insult, but she moved from low, middle, and she also spoke about those persons who we consider indigent who might not have it at all under social housing. So if you could just restate, just to respond to that specific question.
Yeah, but I'm not
Doreen.
talking about the lowest common denominator, and I'm talking about the average Joe.
And I'm asking you to allow her to respond
Okay.
because I didn't refer to just one. It's four I just mentioned.
Thank you for your question, and I will answer you this way. The National Housing Trust is a contributory scheme. So it is people who pay into that scheme that will get a benefit unless they have some special provisions made. The housing agency is not that way. The ordinary Joe, if you consider yourself to be the ordinary Joe, can come into the housing agency and inquire of us what are our offerings. Outside of that, you could go to our website and look to see what we are offering, and you could actually fill out an application right there and then on the website. Of course, you know that there would be certain criteria that would qualify one for a benefit. And so we would do your assessment. And if you qualify, and you get your benefit. So the average Joe can walk into the Housing Agency of Jamaica and apply for one of our units.
So my follow-up question to that is if we talk about inclusionary zoning, so I'm looking at Pinnacle, who we'll talk to tomorrow, by the way. We have a panel that they're on. But when we look at development generally and that spread, how do we ensure in terms of what you have to do on your own mandate that this, when we zone, how do we make that inclusionary for everyone?
Well, zoning is done by entities like NEPA and the municipal corporation. So zoning, housing agency would be putting their developments in areas that are zoned for housing development. Where we come in terms of our housing developments, once we identify a location, we go through the approvals process, because we have to go through the approvals process to ensure that water is there. We have ingress and egress. We have to go to the NWA for all of those things. So we get all our approvals. And this is how we fit into the whole zoning, because we would have got planning permission to put our houses where they ought to go. So I'm not sure if I answer your question.
To some extent, but I'm very mindful of my own biases with zoning. So I pause on that. Is there any other question, any other comment from the audience? Not yet. And in that regard, usually we don't have to stretch it, Shellie and Doreen. What it means is that your presentations were satisfying. They were good. We learned quite a bit. I appreciated your presentation earlier, Doreen, when you spoke about adequate, affordable, legal, safe, livable communities as we speak to that vision, because it doesn't make sense we have the houses on the hill or the beach side and we don't have a safe space to be in. And so that was very important. And Shellie, for your insights on and that interesting conversation about how we can use how we convert IP into real estate was really interesting, and a conversation that we must have, because I'm biased because I'm from that industry. If CCI is running Jamaica and music put it on top, then we must have some considerations for those creative people to feel like they're buying formally like the rest of us. So it really has been too wonderfully packed information. I do want to leave the audience though with two things from both of you. You referred a lot to that Vision 2030 Jamaica. What is that vision? The gentleman in the audience spoke about more of what I call a dystopia, because when we talk, it sounds quite utopic and perfect. But when you talk about it, when you think about what you do at Companies Office, Shellie, what that you think that you could offer to Jamaica to make housing livable, affordable, and I same thing for you, Doreen, as your final words.
Well, from the perspective that I present, it would have to be the place to live, grow families, do business. From the creative perspective, so we see that there is an inequity in terms of resources, are rich in terms of property. So achieve that vision for all, we have to learn what we have so that basically the playing field equal for all concerned. So in his office also for which in diverse real estate perspective that I would speak to you from.
And I wish to say that dignity of people. All of us, all of
to close out our evening is perhaps one of Jamaica's voices. Big voice coming out of a little person. She has been with the university singers, work normally, but she really was meant to be a performer. She is eclectic, she's warm, she moves well on stage. My absolute pleasure to welcome to the Remax conference stage, Miss Elan Neal.
I was wondering who we're talking. No, we have to be bold in this industry, aren't you? Absolutely bold. So I have to check up in a long day, yes? Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try to keep your head up to the sky. Others, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad. Bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, be stronger, gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your said. Read the books your father. Try to solve the problems in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you. Take good. Oh my, you gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wise. You gotta be hard, you gotta be yeah. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm. Stay together. All I know, love save the day. Don't no questions, it goes on without you. Leave you behind. And face. Remembering you and face. Oh. I say, listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try to keep your head up to the sky. Others, they know you tears. Release your gotta be head, you gotta be bold, you wiser. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you got to stay together. I know love will save the day, yeah. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be up, you gotta be sad. You gotta be cool, you gotta stay the key. All I know, love will save the day. All I know, love will save the day. Yeah, yeah. All I know, love will save the day. My, oh my, yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Now, Colleen mentioned that there are a lot of bold women in the industry. You have Shellie Leon. HT representative. HAJ, so sorry about that. This one is dedicated to you in the industry. A lot of strong women beside you, not true? Yes? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready? Ooh, yeah. When the road is cold out, I'll be standing taller to face the darkest and the hardest of times. We'll be taking care of all the children there are, but if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name. I am ready. Once the rules remain the same, how the story told. Papa, a lioness is on the rise. Don't you ever have doubt. Never say never, willingness forever to fight and be strong. Once it's for best, write every letter and moving right along. And I'll roll the punches. Changes. Work with the formula, do what I have to do. I'll be by my name. I am ready to roll. Stories been told. Hold me this time. Never pop one. A lioness is on the rise. Don't you ever have doubt. When the roll is called out, I'll be standing taller to face the darkest and the hardest of times. We'll be taking care of all the children there are. But if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name. Once the rules remain the same. One more time. Call me anytime. Never cop out. Lioness is on the rise. Don't you ever have no doubt. Oh, call me by my name. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. A lioness is on the rise. Don't you ever have no doubt when the roll is called out. Thank you very much. On my last one, I invite you to get up. I heard Colleen telling you, don't get up, don't get up. But this is the part where I want you to get up. So you're free to get up if you like. And we're going to do this one together. This is the last one for you. It's a little party tune, a little oldies. Yeah? Never doubt it's called love. You feel the spirit of the party start to come alive. Whenever day is dawning, you can throw out all the blues and hit the city lights. Cause there's music in the air, lots of loving everywhere. So give me the night. All right, tonight, give me the night. I see the Pinnacle team ready to get us started. Need the evening action. A place to dine, a glass of wine, a little late romance. It's a chain reaction. All the people of the world coming out to dance. Cause there's music in the air, lots of love in everywhere. So give me the night. This is your time, man. Anybody want? So come on out tonight. And we'll meet the others on a ride through paradise. And if you feel alright, then we can be cause I see the starlight look in your eyes. Don't you know we can fly? And give me the night. Give me the night. Yeah. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a wonderful audience. It's been my pleasure. My name is Elan with 2 L's. Thank you.
What, Elan with 2 L's? I spell her name with 1 L, by the way. So I just learned something. Remember, you can stay here, not for as long as you want, but up to 8 o'clock I gather and move around, meet somebody new. Open again tomorrow morning at EdgeChem. Please go back there if you haven't signed up. There's a very interesting thing happening. You might be able to win a $50,000 paint makeover. See it there? See it there? So make sure you go around there. But when you go around there, come back tomorrow for the draw. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.